we appreciate you hanging out with us here today. Of course, you're bringing the Wheel of Fortune live show coming up here on November 23rd in Duluth at the Deck. That's going to be a fantastic day and a fantastic time. Are you excited to bring this live show to this area in Duluth?
You bet I am. I mean, it's one of my favorite joys. I do this job more for fun than any other reason. So I'm looking forward to bringing America's Game to you guys up in Duluth.
What's your favorite part about hosting this live version? What can people expect?
Oh, my favorite part is that it is live, that it's not for TV, that we're going to pull people right out of the audience to be contestants who have not been previously selected. So you never know who's going to end up on stage. You never know what level of gameplay they're able to do. And for me, that's just good times. We just have a great time.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, you've been hosting this for a little bit now. Do you have a favorite moment or a thing that happened over the past that you've experienced?
We had a moment the other night that was pretty special. We had a woman that made it to the bonus round, and one of the things that we do on our show is that if somebody solves the bonus puzzle, whatever's in the envelope that they win, we match that with somebody in the audience as well. So it's a big deal. So we were in the bonus puzzle, and she's trying to get it, and she's not getting it, but almost getting it, and then somebody in the audience yelled out the answer. So we had to disqualify the puzzle.
Oh, no!
Hold on. There's a happy ending. So this awkward moment where was she going to get it? Was she not going to get it? And then somebody in the audience, even though we warned them over and over again, kind of blew it. So we reload a new puzzle. She gets to pick new letters. And I got my fingers crossed for her. And it was what I thought was a relatively easy puzzle given the letter she gave, but she wasn't getting it. 10 seconds, it's clicking down, and it gets to like 9.8 seconds. And she finally solved it and won the prize. So it had a happy ending, which could have been absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I bet it's tough for the audience to not blurt out and say these answers and responses.
It's really hard, and we understand that. So, in the first part of the show, it happens a couple of times. We're like, okay, guys, do the best you can. Then as the show goes on, invariably, there's only one person who doesn't get the message. But for the most part, audiences get it because nobody wants to blow the puzzles, So as the show goes on, people kind of get used to that part of it, and it usually works out pretty great.
And Mark, I'm sure I would be one of the contestants maybe who goes up there, gets pretty nervous, and you see those clips online too of the obvious answers, and they don't eventually get it. Have there been moments like that so far?
All the time. One of the things that I think we can all relate to is that it's much easier to solve puzzles when you're sitting on the couch in the dark. And when we put you on stage in front of 1,000 people and the lights are on you, the brain has a little trouble functioning. So one of the things I love is that somebody will call a letter, like, is there an S? And before I can say, yeah, there are 3 S's, you hear the audience applaud to let me know they've already solved the puzzle. So I kind of like that.
Oh my gosh. I gotta say, you're basically a game show hosting legend. It's gotta be up there with all sorts of other people, of course. You're in a nice class of different people. Where does your love for hosting game shows and being a part of game shows come from?
Thank you for saying so. I started work when I first started in television. I was a PA, a runner, we called it, even below a PA. And I worked for Dick Clark.
Whoa.
And so I got to watch him do game shows and other shows, quite frankly. And so I learned a lot of the basic stuff about hosting from him. And since that time, I've been hosting shows for longer than I care to mention. And I've done all kinds of shows, reality shows, live broadcasts, news, entertainment shows, all kinds of stuff. Temptation Island, I do now, with Netflix. But the thing I love most about game shows is everybody's there for the right reasons. And as the host, you get to be the provider and the traffic cop to make sure the game plays well. And I watch people's lives change. Over the years, depending on the show, I've watched people win amounts of money that really make a difference. And now on this tour, the thing that I always stress, I say it in front of the audience, is that we live in such a divided world right now, especially in our country, that it's refreshing, and I feel like it's my own little purpose that for 90 minutes a night, we all come into a room and you're sitting next to somebody you may not agree with for most of the day, but for the next 90 minutes, we're just going to solve puzzles and agree that there's something we have in common. And I think there's some power in that.
I love that.
Very cool. And
Yep.
Mark, as you said, you are the host of Temptation Island as well on Netflix hit show. How do you jump between the different formats? I would assume that Netflix, the recording that way is very different than what you're doing here with Wheel of Fortune Live.
Yeah, it's an entirely different skill set. I've done game shows my whole career, so that's like, I can do that in my sleep. Temptation Island is more real, so I'm talking about life experience and stuff like that. So it's different, accessing a different aspect of me as a host. But ultimately, as I've told young hosts coming up, that the more authentic you can be, just be you every day. We're different. When I'm hanging out with the guys, it's still me, but maybe different than when I'm hanging out with my kids, but it's still me. So I think that's the best way to describe it, is that the content changes, but the host is the same guy.
So you've hosted shows like Temptation Island, The Moment of Truth, Friend or Foe. You seem like maybe you like to stir the pot a little bit, which is kind of funny.
I hate stirring the pot.
You do?
I hate it. I hate confrontation. I hate stirring the pot. I'm from the deep South. I'm from South Carolina, and we just like to say nice things and not talk about anything that's too deep. So it's funny to me, and I have a theory about it. When I first started on Temptation Island, the show was so outrageous that, because I don't like to stir the pot, made it palatable for the audience, that I was more like the audience. If I was the one going, let's see if we can get you to cheat and stuff like that,
Yeah, right?
it would just be too much. But instead, I'm the one kind of going, is this a good idea? And so it's funny that over the years, especially Moment of Truth, I didn't want to do that show at all. That was just way too much for me. But I think I've become the guy that, in these crazy confrontational shows, I can kind of find a way to find some humanity in it. One of the things that I really try to do is take judgment out of my, out of the wheelhouse altogether, so that people come on the show for whatever reasons they have, and I'm happy to talk to them about whatever it is that they think they want to talk about without judging them. But yeah, I don't like confrontation. I don't like. That's why I love coming on the road and doing these game shows where it's just like, let's give away prizes and be happy all the time.
Right. Mark, my first exposure to you as a host was Moment of Truth as a kid. I think I was probably 8 or so, and I'm like, these are some hard hitting questions.
Well, first of all, at 8 years old, you shouldn't have been watching that show. So I'd like to talk to you. And that's a funny story. I was never supposed to host that show. They were doing the pilot of that show. And about 9:30 at night on a Friday, I got a call from a producer saying, we just got rid of our host. We need a new host, and they want you. Where are you? And I was just around the corner doing a different pilot. So I literally drove at 9:30 at night on a Friday night around the corner with makeup on and a suit from another show, and stepped in and hosted this pilot, only to help out my friend. And then I went home and I told my wife, you're not going to believe what just happened. And there's no way I'm hosting this show. It's just too crazy. And then, 6 months later, they came back to me and they sat me down and made me watch the pilot. I said, no way. And then they made me watch the pilot. My family says, this show is really, really great. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. And then they made me an offer, and I'm like, well, I like to feed my family, so okay, I'll do it.
That's amazing.
Well, what is something maybe viewers out there don't know that it takes to be a TV host, either on Netflix or, in the Moment of Truth, or now in Wheel of Fortune Live?
Well, Wheel of Fortune Live, let's stay with that. One of the things that people don't know, first of all, you got to be an expert, or at least well-versed in the game, and especially Wheel of Fortune. Now, I've hosted a bunch of games in my life, and in a live situation like these tours, I've done Price is Right, Let's Make a Deal, Family Feud, Wheel of Fortune. I've done a bunch of them. Wheel of Fortune looks like the easiest one of all of them, but maybe the hardest one, because it's repetitive, but there are a lot of rules and specifics about the order and how things are done. And the way that game is played, the rules are very specific and very strict. So one of the things I try to teach those people who think they want to be game show hosts is, you've got to be proficient in being the traffic cop of the game. The most important thing is that you keep the game, the integrity of the game, on the tracks, and that's where the fun can happen. But if it's at all wishy-washy and you're not in control of it, then it makes everybody uncomfortable. So that's a skill set that I've had over, I've spent, 30 years or so working on. So, but I've seen other people really struggle with that. It's difficult to be sort of the master of ceremonies. You have to master the game. And, I don't do it every night. Sometimes I really blow it, but know, that's part of it as well.
It's okay if the answer to your question of this is no, but do you have any cool or interesting experiences from our region? Like, have you ever been to Duluth before or Northwest Wisconsin?
We were in Minnesota earlier this year. We were in, I went to Red Wing. And I've been throughout Minnesota over the years, and maybe Duluth, and I'm embarrassed to tell you that I'm not sure. Between Antiques Roadshow and these tours that I've done, I've been to so many cities, I don't know where I've been.
Wow.
But I love Minnesota. The people are incredible, so warm and not just Minnesota nice, like actually nice.
Yeah.
Although I have learned that phrase. And I love it. And we were there in October, and it was so pleasant and beautiful. And now we're coming back in November, and I'm expecting it to be a little chilly. But for a California guy, which I am now, it's fun to visit winter, for a few days, and then I'll go home.
Hunter and I, we host a talk show here in Duluth. What does it take in your eyes? What would be some career advice for folks who are maybe getting into television?
Well, television isn't what it used to be. I know I sound like the old guy here. And so the good news about it is nothing is stopping anybody from creating and broadcasting content. So, I'm of the mind of people my age and who started in the industry that are my peers are poo-pooing YouTube and this, that, and they're like, oh, that's not the way it was when we were in. But I lean into it. I'm like, there's some freedom and beauty of the fact that you have the ability with your phone and your computer to create whatever content is important to you, and you can put it out there for people to enjoy. Whether they find you or not is another story. But then that leads to the advice I always give: be authentic, be real, share things you're passionate about, be honest in your presentation, and maybe you'll find an audience, but the good news is nothing's standing in your way from doing it.
You do a lot of shows. What still excites you about walking onto that stage every night for Wheel of Fortune Live?
So for me, this is a job that my wife keeps saying, why do you keep going and doing this? And I keep saying I can't quit. It's the most fun ever. First of all, Wheel of Fortune specifically is a touchstone for most of Americans, actually North America. We've been in Canada and everywhere. And so to be kind of the curator of that on the road is something I don't take lightly, and I love it for the other reasons of sort of a purpose that we're all finding a common ground to enjoy and remember that we actually get along better than the powers that be will let you know. I think that's important. But for me specifically, touring the country, going from city to city is something that I'm passionate about. Being in front of a live audience where we don't know what's going to happen every night is something I crave. And I'm working with a group of people that I really respect, that we really have a great time. As I sit here, I'm sitting in the back of the audience of the theater in San Francisco in the Golden Gate Theater, and I'm watching all of my crew unload the wheel right now and unpack all of the cases and get ready to do a show. And there's something kind of romantic about, showing up to a theater, setting up, doing a show, tearing it down, getting on the bus and going to the next city. I can't quit it. I love it.
It's so cool to see somebody so authentic and so passionate about what they do, and what they get to do. It's very, very cool and very nice to meet you and talk with you here, Mark. And of course, we're excited to have you here in our city of Duluth coming up on November 23rd. And we hope that you enjoy your time here, my friend.
I know I will. And for those of you who are watching, get tickets and come. Even if you don't want to play, you could end up winning, even just sitting in the audience. And if you run into me while we're in Duluth, please come up and say hello. I love meeting you guys. And I know it's kind of weird sometimes, but just come up and say hello and let's hang out and take a picture. So anyway, I'm looking forward to being in Duluth and encouraging all of you guys to come down and see the show. We're going to have a great time.
Well, thank you, Mark. Really appreciate your time. Have fun tonight, too.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.